Hi, welcome to Enter the Bunker, where we launch you into thriving. Each week we talk about a different virtue that can be used as a building brick to build your own personal bunkers. We share personal stories, as well as tips and tricks to help you thrive instead of survive. So sit down, relax, and enter the bunker.
Hello and welcome to Enter the Bunker's weekly podcast. This week's building brick is reverence. My name is Kelly.
And I'm Jonathan.
And we're going to go over the meaning as per usual. Reverence. The meaning of reverence. Just putting it out there, the word reverence reminds me of reverend. I don't know why. Been watching Kimmy Schmidt lately.
That would do it.
All right. Meaning, an awareness of the sacredness of life, living with wonder and faith, having a routine of reflection. Whoa, that seems like deep reverence.
Well, it is.
An awareness of the sacredness of life.
Yes.
Okay. Living with wonder and faith.
Yes.
Having a routine of reflection.
Yes.
Reflect me on this.
So, I mean, a routine of reflection,
yeah.
Right? So to live a life of reverence, right, is to really just have an appreciation for life in general,
yeah.
Right? So it's our ability. So like when you think about reverence, it's almost like you think about how we consider things to be sacred in life.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think, and the fact is that when it comes to how animals act versus how humans act, sacredness and the ability to have reverence is something that animals just don't have, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're driven by, can I eat this? And, I better run away from that. And that's it. But our ability to be able to take something and have something that means something to us is what reverence is. So take, for example, if you were wearing like your sweater,
yeah.
And your sweater happened to be a gift from your grandma.
Right.
Right.
And so I actually have a few sweaters that that are my great grandmother's.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you these are just sweaters.
Yeah.
There's nothing particularly special about them except to you, right? To you, it's like, wait a minute, this was my grandmother's, and this actually has some kind of emotional meaning to me.
Yeah.
And so when you are handling those sweaters, of course, you're just like, you're treating it differently than just any other sweater.
Right? Or
I'm
even
actually
like telling people like this, if somebody says, I really like your sweater, a lot, if I get it from a store, I'm not like, oh, I got it from blah, blah, blah. I just, thank you.
Yeah.
But if somebody says that when I'm wearing that sweater, I'm like, I got it from my great grandmother. It was my great grandmother's, or it was my grandmother's. Like, I'm so much more proud of it.
Yeah, there you go. So that's reverence.
Okay.
Right. And so being able to have reverence for things, of course, it's like that's just part of life, and being able to have greater meaning in terms of what we do in life. Right. So this building brick is something which is challenging for some people, because a lot of the things that surround us, really, we don't have much reverence for, because it really doesn't have a lot of meaning. But if we can be able to have moments and be able to attach moments to that are meaningful to us, then it's a lot easier for us to have reverence in life. And of course, reverence, what that does is it gives us appreciation for all these things, just like, your grandmother's sweater and or your great grandmother's sweater and so on, right?
It's so true. I never knew that's what reverence was.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some quotes here. First one is, teach your children to revere the sanctity of life. Reverence for life is the glue of human community. Archbishop Charles J. Chaput. If we perceive life with reverence, we would stand in awe at the experience of physical life and walk the earth in a very deep sense of gratitude. Gary Zukov, a spiritual leader and author. If a man loses his reverence for any part of life, he will lose his reverence for all of life. Albert Schweitzer.
Yeah.
Theologist, philosopher, and a physician. What's a theologist?
Theologist is someone who basically a philosopher. A theologist studies
theory.
No, it has to do with spirituality.
Okay.
Theology is the study of religion,
okay.
and God and so forth. So they basically spent they've gained some kind of doctorate, I guess, in terms of understanding religious doctrine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. 4, pursue some path, however narrow and crooked, in which you can walk with love and reverence. Henry David Thoreau, naturalist and philosopher. And finally, do everything with gentleness, with kindness, with reverence. That is how grace moves. That is how love dances. Heather K. O'Hara, poet, novelist. I feel like just reading that quote, I was not surprised that she was a poet.
There you go. Yeah.
Was there any certain quote here that you liked, disliked, want to talk about?
So I think what Albert Schweitzer said, if a man loses his reverence for any part of life, he will lose his reverence for all life. That's a little bit
That's harsh.
harsh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you lose reverence for any part, you lose it for all. I guess for what he's trying to communicate there is that the degree of reverence that you have in your life, it's very easy essentially to lose reverence for life if you lose any part of it.
Right.
Is what I think he's trying to say.
Like once you fall off the ladder, you just keep falling, kind of.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
exactly. So
this reminds me of something Henry would say, by the way, too.
Really?
Yeah, this quote.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
So I think that's what Albert Schweitzer is trying to say, is that when you start to lose reverence in your life in general and anything, then it just becomes where it almost becomes a cascading effect, where you just end up losing it all. But at the same time, you could also look at it and go, well, that's just being parabolic, and you're just being extreme, and that in what you're trying to say there. It's another way you can interpret it.
Yeah.
But of all the things in terms of the quotes, the other one from Henry David Thoreau, pursue some path, however narrow or crooked, in which you can walk with love and reverence, right? So there he's saying that whatever it is that you're pursuing in terms of a path, like even if it's good or bad, make sure it has reverence in it and love, right?
That's kind of hard to do when it's bad, right?
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I don't think any of these quotes really jumped out at me this time. I guess I was going to get you to kind of explain this one to me a little bit, or your thoughts on it. Teach your children to revere the sanctity of life. Reverence for life is the glue of human community. What? How? Just to appreciate something I thought it was appreciating something that you have. Why is it why is reverence the glue of human community?
So think about your grandmother's sweater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we don't have reverence for one another,
right, in
the same fashion, then we're not able to have community, because we just think of everybody as kind of being disposable.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
And so if that's the case, then it's kind of like, well, I'm just going to cancel you out of my life. I can just toss you whenever I want to, because I just don't care.
Right.
That's when
you can have reverence for people.
You have to have reverence for people.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he's in the quote is talking about reverence for all life.
Yeah.
Right. So think about your kids. I mean, you're talking about teach your children to have reverence and sanctity for all life.
Yeah.
Think about, what's going to happen with kids. I don't know about you, but kids love to be able to play with bugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do they do to those bugs?
Eat them.
Okay. they eat them, and they also will kill them, and they will do all kinds of things to them. And oftentimes it's them learning in the first place, and they don't understand it. But then over time, you start to help them understand, like this is something that's living, it shouldn't be.
We only eat bugs if we're starving.
Yeah. Well, in your case, eat animals that we hit with a car, and then we'll eat them. But the thing is that I know what you mean. In terms of reverence, right? The kids, they learn that over time. But the thing is that if they have that in their life, that they understand that all things matter, and that people matter, and that there's a reverence that has to go with that. That's where communities are built, right? And if we just don't care about one another, then communities aren't going to be built.
No,
right?
There'd be no community.
Yeah, there'd be no there. It's just
no community. Build the community.
It's literally the glue. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you for that. I wanted to like that quote because it had the word teach children, and I'm all for that. So now that I know that, I actually enjoy that quote. Okay, let's go over some information. Reverence is a feeling or attitude of deep respect tinged with awe. As the quotes I just read allude to, reverence is what holds us together as a human community, but also holds us to the natural world as well. And to go even further, it should also allow you to know that within yourself, there is a communal light belonging to all things in our world that you should recognize and honor.
So yeah, I think that goes to what I was just talking about in terms of understanding that there's a, like, we attach that reverence to things, depending on the meaning that we have with it, right? So if we don't have that, again, we don't have community, and then we don't hold together, and then it's really easy for people to cancel each other. And we see a lot of that actually.
So like, actually when we first started doing all of our videos on YouTube and stuff before our podcast, we started back in June 2020.
Right.
And I don't know, it's probably August or something. Our crew that we had were talking about getting canceled. Like they didn't want to do something because they didn't want to get canceled, or they were weary of doing something. And I was like, what the heck? And they're like, yeah, it's a cancel. Like it's a thing that people do. I'm like, what the heck is canceling community? Like, I guess people, if you're not liked or you do something wrong or completely, people just get together and cancel you completely and you're done pretty much.
Right.
All social media. Like I never even heard of that before, but it's so common now.
Yeah. So clearly these are communities that don't have reverence for who they're connecting with.
Yeah.
Right. So, and is it really community then?
No.
So
it's not a community at all.
Yeah.
If they don't have that.
If that's possible, then it's not a community. Yeah. You are
fake
performer.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And you have an audience, and that's it. Right.
Yeah.
So.
And personally, I wouldn't want that audience. I'd want the audience that has reverence.
Right.
Like I don't want you here just to, I don't know. You want a good community is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, reverence means connecting with others.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And having the appreciation, all for life, is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're connecting with somebody, or and we're talking about YouTube channels, I guess right now, if you're connecting with somebody and you have a certain connection with them and you have an appreciation for them and an awe sense, then you're going to have a reverence for whatever it is in terms of the interactions you have with them, or the things they're saying and so forth, or the comments you're going to make. But if it's going to be all about, I'm watching you so you entertain me.
Yeah.
Right. So that I can get something from you, or, I don't have anything to do. Are you entertaining me now? Then that's not where you're actually connecting, and it's not where you actually have some kind of a reverence, right? It's where you're just filling time, right? And if that's what they're doing, and every once in a while, that's what everyone does.
Of course.
But if that's the relationship that continues, then you're going to end up having a bunch of followers that are ready to cancel you if you don't, basically every time they say dance for me, monkey, and then if you don't do it, well then I'm going to cancel you.
Like that's not right.
No, it's not right. It's very empty. It's very.
And why is it all of a sudden happening now?
I think that
because of the internet. So
I
feel like even growing up, there's YouTube videos everyone watched. They weren't as people weren't making YouTube videos all the time like they are now. But I remember when all that first started, and there was no canceling. I don't think then. Maybe there was.
So back in, you got to look at the platform and the algorithms.
Okay.
These have a lot to do with the kind of behaviors that evolve.
Yeah.
And it really is to serve the end goals of the platform, not of the people.
Yeah.
And so when you have the algorithm that's judging videos by different things and how people are viewing them, it plays all into that. Mm-hmm. And so then people actually start to respond in that way. So really, I would say that a big portion of the problem that we're talking about now has to do with these platforms and the algorithms that have been implemented in them that are influencing the way people are interacting with each other, instead of having a peer-to-peer type of a relationship, which allows for a reverence for the relationship between each other. And until we evolve to that, and there's actually a lot of activity now in terms of development going towards that, because now that we're in this place now, everybody's recognizing the problem. They're just like, we can't keep going on like this. This is no good. And people are not satisfied. So they're going to move on to peer-to-peer platforms where they're going to have the ability to be able to actually connect with the people that they're watching, or who have reverence. And then that way we're not going to, and then it's going to be, we'll have to figure out what's going to happen to those platforms that with the AIs and everything else that are creating all the problems. Just leave that to others.
Yeah, we'll leave that to them.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in with us for part 1 of Reverence. Stay tuned for part 2 when we go over how to practice mindful reverence. We'll see you then.
We'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to Enter the Bunker. Make sure to follow us on Instagram where you can share your story and also look at behind the scenes of how we make our podcast. You can watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube by simply searching Enter the Bunker. Tune in next time as we launch into thriving.